Hey everyone, it's Mason. We're going to do a SkywarnPlus installation today on a fresh and brand new HAMVOIP node. So over here I just have the GitHub page open and I'm looking at the README file, and we're going to scroll down here and we're going to start with the installation instructions. We're going to start by installing some dependencies, and to do that we need to start by opening a bash shell in our HAMVOIP node. We're going to follow the Arch HAMVOIP instructions. We're going to start by installing ffmpeg. We can just hit default on all this stuff. And then Y for yes. Okay, now that that's done, we're going to install a workable version of pip for Python using this command right here. We're going to download the install script, and then we're going to run the install script. We can ignore this warning message right here. This is due to HAMVOIP having an outdated version of Python, which is not any fault of SkywarnPlus. Okay. Now we can move on to installing some pip packages. Okay, now we have one more Python package we need to install, and for HAMVOIP we are going to have to specify the 0.15.100 version of this YAML package. Okay, from here on out, all the instructions will be the same regardless of what operating system or distribution you are using. Okay, now we're going to move into the folder which we want to install the SkywarnPlus folder at. And then we can go ahead and download the latest zip from the GitHub repo. Next, we can unzip that zip file. And then we can go ahead and delete the zip file that's now been extracted because we don't need it anymore. And now we can go ahead and enter that directory and go ahead and set the executable permission for all of the Python scripts that are in this directory. Okay, now that we've done that, we can configure our configuration file. Just open it with the nano editor here. And the first thing we need to do is put in our node number. Next, we will put in the county codes that we want to monitor. And you can get this from the National Weather Service website at alerts.weather.gov. And you'll scroll down in the list and you'll pick the state that your county is in. I'm in Arkansas. And then you'll find your county in this list and use the code that is to the left of it. For me, this will be Saline, ARC125. Okay, now the rest of this is going to be pretty much up to you on what you want to do with your node. SayAlert is going to be whenever a new alert is detected, SkywarnPlus will instantly key up your node to announce that alert whenever it is first detected. So I'm going to leave that on. SayAlert suffix, this is an audio file that you can append to the end of that SayAlert transmission. And that's just if you want to add something else there, you can leave it commented out if you don't have anything. Say all clear is exactly what it sounds like. As soon as all of the alerts have been cleared, SkywarnPlus will key up the node and it will say that all of the alerts have been cleared. Max alerts allows you to optionally limit the maximum number of alerts that SkywarnPlus will process. Now, these are always going to be sorted in order of most severe at the beginning of the list. So if you limit this to 5, SkywarnPlus will only process the 5 most severe alerts. I'm going to leave that disabled. Time type can be a little confusing. You can read this and get a general idea, But basically the National Weather Service has two different types of times that they specify for an alert. Those are the onset time and the effective time. The onset time is the time at which the alert is actually going to start, and the effective time is the time at which the message that is talking about the alert becomes effective. Essentially, if you use onset, you'll make sure that your node only keys up whenever something is imminent, but if you use effective, you will get a little bit of a heads up for some alerts when they can issue them before they actually happen. Onset is the default, and I'm going to go ahead and leave it like that, so that way my node isn't keying up and talking about things that aren't actually happening yet. The blocking section allows you to block specific alerts from different functions within SkywarnPlus. So for instance, you can globally block some events so that SkywarnPlus will ignore them entirely. You can block certain events from only the SayAlert function, or you can block alerts from only the tail message function. Now I'm going to go ahead and add one here just for demonstration purposes. Now remember, this is YAML, so we will have to make sure that we indent properly. So if I want to block all of the statement type alerts from SkywarnPlus, I would put right here, single quote, asterisk, statement. And that will block all statements from SkywarnPlus. It will ignore all special weather statements, etc. The tail message section lets you change settings for the tail message functionality. The tail message is going to be the audio file containing the alerts that you can tell Asterisk to play as a tail message on a given interval whenever the node is active. If you don't know what a tail message is, this is exactly like the ID on the node, where it will key up every so often only while the node is active, though. If it has been keyed up within a recent amount of time, then it will transmit its ID message, which is either Morse code or a voice message of some sort. So a tail message is the same thing. You can set this up in your rpt.conf file, or repeat config as I like to call it. I'm going to go ahead and enable tail message for this node, and this will tell SkywarnPlus to build tail messages. Now again, you can optionally add a suffix audio file to this tail message if you want to. I'm not going to, and I'm also not going to change the path at which it is stored at. If you do change this path, keep in mind you have to put the file name in that path too. The courtesy tone section lets you set up SkywarnPlus to automatically change the courtesy tone of your node. Now, this is a little bit complicated and might not make a whole bunch of sense just by reading it, but I am going to set it up so that you can see how it works. So I'm going to go ahead and enable this. The tone directory, I'm going to leave it the same as it's included with SkywarnPlus. And I'm also going to leave all of these tones set the way they are included. So basically what SkywarnPlus will do is anytime any of these alerts in this list are active, it will replace these two files right here with the content of this file. So it will take the Stardust tone and it will put it into this audio file and this audio file right here. So that way, whenever Asterisk plays that audio file, it will have the Stardust sound instead of the normal sound. ID change is essentially the exact same thing as the courtesy tone, but it's a separate function that you can use for the ID. So you can set your ID to change to something different whenever there is an active weather alert matching this list right here. And this might be useful for if you have a long voice ID as your usual ID file, you can change that to a shorter Morse code file whenever some severe weather alert is active. I'm going to go ahead and leave that off for now on this node. The SkyDescribe section is where you will change settings for the SkyDescribe function. SkyDescribe is a separate script that is included with SkywarnPlus, and what it allows you to do is request that Asterisk read out the entire detailed description of an alert when it is active. So if SkywarnPlus keys up the node and says that there is a tornado warning, you can use SkyDescribe to manually go ahead and say the entire detailed description of that alert, which will tell you what it is, where it's going, how long it's going to be around, how much damage that's expected to cause, and those types of things. It's a very handy feature, and all you need to do is go to the voicerss.org website and register for a free API key. I'm going to go ahead and paste my API key in here, and I'm going to cut that out of the video. Okay, now we're going to move on to Alert Script. Now what Alert Script lets you do is define actions that SkywarnPlus should take whenever specific weather alerts are active. Alert Script lets you pretty much program SkywarnPlus to do anything you can imagine. If your node is capable of doing it, SkywarnPlus can make it happen whenever alerts exist. So I've got a few examples written in here that kind of try to show you how everything works. Moving on down to pushover configuration. Pushover is a free service that lets you send push notifications through an API to another device that you have. So if you want SkywarnPlus to send notifications to your phone whenever it detects a change in the alerts, you can set that up too. I'm not going to set this up in my configuration right now, but I will show a screenshot right here in the video of what it looks like on my phone whenever this is working. Now here's your logging configuration where you can turn on debugging if you need to test or see if something's going wrong. Turning on debugging will give you a lot more detailed logging output in the console and in the log file. Just keep in mind that if you leave that turned on, that log file is going to fill up very fast and it's going to be very hard to sort through. And it's probably going to take up a whole lot of space if you leave that on and forget about it. Now these are some developer options. You don't really need to worry about anything in here for the most part, except for this right here. This allows you to inject alerts manually so that you can test the functionality of SkywarnPlus without having to go and manually look for a county that has an active weather alert. Okay, now I'm done modifying my configuration file, so I'm going to save it. I'm going to go back to my installation instructions. Now normally this is the part where you would put in the cron tab for SkywarnPlus to be automatically ran every so often. This one right here will run SkywarnPlus every 60 seconds. I'm not going to put this in here right now just because we're messing with it manually in this video. So I'm just going to run SkywarnPlus by typing in the command manually instead of letting it run every 60 seconds. Now we can set up our repeat config file to work with tail messages, courtesy tones, and everything else that we set up. So I'm going to go ahead and open my repeat config file. And I'm going to start by scrolling down to the tail message settings. So I've actually already got this defined in here, but what I'm going to go ahead and do is just delete what's in here and then paste in what I have in the README. Okay, now I'm going to set up my courtesy tones. So what I need to do first is scroll up to where you tell Asterisk what courtesy tones to use. So here we have our unlinked courtesy tone, our remote courtesy tone, and our link unkey courtesy tone. Now what I like to do is set up my nodes so that I have one courtesy tone for all local traffic and one courtesy tone for all linked traffic. So if some traffic comes from the local node, it will make one sound, and if traffic comes from a node other than the local node, it will make another sound. So what I'm going to do is just follow the example in the README, which is using CT1 and CT2, and I already have that defined here. I've got CT1 for both of my local tones, and I've got CT2 for my link tone. Now I'm going to scroll down to the telemetry section, which is where we're going to tell Asterisk what audio file to play for those tone definitions. So following the example in the README, we're just going to set it up so that we have one tone for local, one tone for link, like I said before. And I'm just going to copy this and paste it in here. So CT1, remember we set up top as our local tone and CT2 is our link tone. Without going too much in depth here, remote TX is yet another definition that Asterisk will use for local traffic. So I'm going to make that one CT local as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete all these and replace them with the example that we have in the README. Okay, we did not set up the automatic CW/voice ID, which means that we should now be done with editing our repeat config file. So we're going to save those changes and restart Asterisk. Okay, now let's take a look at the SkyControl script. SkyControl gives you a way to change some of the settings in the configuration file for SkywarnPlus without having to actually manually open and edit the configuration file. This means that you can tie SkyControl to DTMF commands or schedules or anything else you want to be able to turn on and off certain functions within SkywarnPlus. So using the example that we have here in the README, we can use this command right here to completely disable all of SkywarnPlus.
SkywarnPlus disabled.
And we can use this command to set it back to true and re-enable it.
SkywarnPlus enabled.
And we can also use the toggle command to just change it to the opposite of whatever it's currently set to.
SkywarnPlus disabled.
And I'll go ahead and re-enable it.
SkywarnPlus enabled.
You can also use SkyControl to manually change your courtesy tone or ID if you have those functions set up for automatic control in the configuration. So using this example to manually change our courtesy tone to severe weather mode.
Courtesy tone set to weather.
And we can change it back to normal mode the same way.
Courtesy tone set to normal.
And you can hear that it's giving spoken feedback every time you run one of those commands. Now, if we want to map those to DTMF commands, we can use these right here. And you can set these DTMF numbers to whatever you want. So you would punch in *831 to completely toggle the entirety of SkywarnPlus. Or you could run *832 to toggle the SayAlert function. I'm actually going to go ahead and add these to my repeat config file just for example. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this and reopen my repeat config. Now I'm going to scroll down to where the function stanza is. And here's where all of our DTMF commands are defined. Now these examples will work fine. Just keep in mind that if you change these DTMF definitions, you cannot use the same first digits for those definitions as exist in another command already. So for instance, I start these with 8.3 in the example because the last default command included in HAMVOIP version 1.7 is 82. So that means that if these were all 821, 822, 823, 824, and so on, then whenever we try to punch in 821, Asterisk would just see us type in 82, and it would run this command before you even got a chance to put in the 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever it is that you were trying to punch in to be able to change one of these functions. So I'm just going to copy this whole thing, and I'm going to paste it right after the 82 command that's already in here. I'm going to go ahead and scroll down and talk about SkyDescribe for a second because I want to add those DTMF definitions in repeat config as well. So like we said before, SkyDescribe lets you request a broadcast of the full details of the alert message. And looking at the example here, we see that if SkywarnPlus announces that there is a tornado warning, tornado watch, and a severe thunderstorm warning, those would be alerts number 1, 2, and 3. So if we scroll down and look at these example DTMF definitions, we can see that 841 would run SkyDescribe 1, which would describe the first alert. 842 would run SkyDescribe 2, which would describe the second alert, and so on. So I'm just going to do one command for 1 through 9, which will allow me to request by DTMF a description of alerts 1 through 9. I'm going to copy these and I'm going to put them right after the SkyControl commands. And we changed the configuration file, so we're going to restart Asterisk again. Okay, now we've pretty much finished the configuration for SkywarnPlus and everything is set up and ready to go. So let's go ahead and run it for the first time. And of course, on the first run, we're not actually getting anything out of SkywarnPlus. It didn't do anything at all, because if we look at the alerts that are currently active for the county that I specified, we will see that there are no active watches, warnings, or advisories. So there's not actually anything going on right now. What I could do is I could go and find a county that has something going on, or I could go down and look at the testing stuff and I could manually inject some alerts. It looks like we got something going on over here in Missouri, so let's find out where that is. It's in Washington, Missouri, so we need that county. And Washington, Missouri is in Franklin County. So we're going to come back over here to our list. We're looking at Missouri counties, and we'll go ahead and find the code for Franklin, which is right here, MOC 071. So we'll change that. Now, since there appears to actually be a tornado warning active right now, I'm just going to go ahead and turn off the alert script so that way we don't have to deal with it giving us a big, long, detailed description for right now.
Alert script disabled.
And that will disable the automatic calling of the SkyDescribe script. So now we can go ahead and run SkywarnPlus again and refresh that information for the new county that has active alerts.
Updated local information. Tornado warning. Severe thunderstorm warning.
So we can see that SkywarnPlus successfully detected the tornado warning and severe thunderstorm warning, and it told us about it, and it did all the automatic functions that we have it set up to do. Now let's go ahead and ask for a detailed description of that tornado warning since it's available. Now I'm going to go ahead and pretend like I'm doing this with a DTMF keypad on a radio, but I'm just going to do it by a console command. I'm still going to put in the DTMF though. We're going to use 841 to SkyDescribe the first alert, and the alerts list is tornado warning, severe thunderstorm warning. So the first alert is tornado warning, the second one is severe thunderstorm warning. So we're going to go ahead and just open an Asterisk command console so that way we can put in the DTMF codes manually from the command line. We're going to do that using the repeat fun command. And our DTMF command is 841, so we will do star 841.
Detailed alert information for tornado warning. The National Weather Service in St. Louis has issued a tornado warning for central Franklin County in east central Missouri until midnight Central Daylight Time. At 11:35 p.m. Central Daylight Time, a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located near Beaufort, moving east at 45 miles per hour. Hazard: tornado and quarter-size hail. Source: radar indicated rotation. Impact: flying debris will be dangerous to those caught without shelter. Mobile homes will be damaged or destroyed. Damage to roofs, windows, and vehicles will occur. Tree damage is likely. This dangerous storm will be near Washington and Union around 11:40 p.m. Central Daylight Time.
Okay, that was a pretty good example of the SkyDescribe function and how it gives us the full detailed alert readout for that alert. And we can run that for any alert that's present. One other thing I want to show is the Supermon integration. So here we can see that SkywarnPlus actually outputs its alert text to a file that can be read by Supermon. This was a function of the old Auto Skywarn scripts, and I went ahead and added a backwards compatibility function in SkywarnPlus so that these alerts will still show up on your Supermon display if you're already used to that happening. Okay, well this video's already gotten pretty long, so I think I'm going to go ahead and cut it off there. If you have any issues or anything, be sure to read through this entire README file in detail. I tried to include as much information in here as I could, and it might have changed since I've made this video. So you can always come in here and try to find as much information as you can. If you still have an issue, you can open an issue on GitHub. And if you want to contribute, don't forget, there's always pull requests. Don't forget to come back to the GitHub repository and check for updated versions. And if you really enjoy SkywarnPlus, don't forget to scroll down to the bottom of the README for information on contributing.